from my basement. Not really my basement, you can tell that, right? But the basement joke will get old after a while. But we're here tonight to continue on the saga of what's happening in Gainesville. We've been reading about it, hearing about it. Tonight we went out to the Ocala Quarterback Club. We got to hear Chris Doering's comments about it. And a lot of discussion, as you might guess, as to where do we go from here. All Gators want to know. You've been tremendous the last few nights on this show, and your questions, please continue to bring them. Tonight's a good night. We've got Peek Wilbur with us. She's always great, fresh from her quarterback club meeting in Gainesville. David Moulton returns. We got a comment. What's got Carter will be joining us, and then we'll be hearing from Chris Doering. All coming your way right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Stay tuned and tell your friends and neighbors we are here as we are Monday through Thursday, and sometimes other days, but tonight it's the Buddy Martin Show right here.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Well, good evening. Welcome back. Good to have you. Nice big crowd again tonight. Glad to have you aboard. I'm Buddy Martin. Program has really been interesting the last few nights. Hosted last night by Lauren Meadows, who tonight was at the Ocala Quarterback Club with me as to hear Chris Doering speak. And we will have some interesting comments from you. Peek Wilbur is going to join us momentarily. We'll hear from Scott Carter. And then David Moulton comes back after a little sabbatical. Glad. I know you're all just wondering what is going on, as we all are in Gainesville. Anybody who tells you they know what's going on, I'm sorry, ain't happening. Nobody knows what's going on, including Billy Napier. We can start off negative, positive, whatever. It's been a really tough 48, 72 hours for the program and for people. I've talked to a lot of Gators, some of them very high-powered, some of them well-known, they had a lot of things to say, a lot of it critical. They don't want to go on the record with it, but they're concerned, disappointed, bewildered, etc. Just like you are. You find the right word, and we'll put it your comments up here. How do you feel tonight? I think a lot of us feel like that really hope is left out the back door of any kind of really good season. Now, as Coach Spurrier told me tonight when I talked to him, well, there was this game we played in Syracuse, got our butts kicked, and we came back home, and I made us run the stair steps of the stadium the next morning, bright and early. And he said, I ran up myself with him. And so we started off doing that, and it got their attention. They won every game after that, I believe, right? So it can be turned around. I don't know. What do you think? Will they turn it around? Can Billy turn it around? It's a very perplexing question, and one that doesn't do much for your hopes for this team. Well, we'll leave it open on the floor. That's fine. And we'll hear your comments as well. Just here's a few right here tonight. Let's say, Toby Permanent, good to see you again. Mark, Lenny Thompson, All-Star lineup. Thank you. You're right. Good evening to you, Toby. Robert Turner, go Gators. Yeah. Thank you, Marcus, Lenny Thompson, Jerry Frazier, Van Der. Becky Carlisle, usually right there at the top tonight, not so much. Van Der says, start off with the truth. Well, I try to always do that, Van. The truth is this program's in trouble. We know that. Doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Do I have the answers? No. Do I think it's a coach right there that could turn it around? No. I don't know what they should do. I just know right now it's been epic fails so far. That's the truth. That's the best I got. Robert Turner, yeah, it's just the first game. You're right. And there's a lot of football left and all those cliches. It is true. But you do have to remember it was very embarrassing. Jerry Frazier said, laughing stock of college football. Well, maybe so. I got a message from a very famous football person, not named Steve Spurrier, whatever, said, that team sucks and Billy Napier is a lousy coach. Okay. That's putting it out there. So, no, Rodney, I don't believe he's told his wife to back up. No, there's a lot to go yet. I don't know what happened. I mean, right now, you kind of wish something would happen. Blake Hillman, I'm a longtime Gator fan since 1980 when I was 6 years old. Yeah, I go back a lot longer further than that. A lot of you folks do. We've seen most all of it. I've seen these kind of rodeos and I've seen it happen. And this is so disappointing because expectations were high. Again, as I said many times, let me stop talking and go get Allie. I don't want to leave her out there. She's got things to say that matter, unlike me. So let me see what in my mouth, forgetting about the fact that the star of the show is waiting in the wings. That will be Allie Peek Wilbur. What's up, Allie?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Good. You superstar, are you?
I don't know about that, but
Speaking to was it a touchdown club or the quarterback club, right?
yeah, I saw the list of their normal speakers, and I must have been like their 30th choice, Eric and I, to end up in on that stage with some of those names that are on that normal guest list. That was incredibly intimidating, but it was super fun. Oldest Gator club in the world, as they will tell you, and there was a lot to talk about.
Don't put yourself down like that, okay? You're a young up-and-coming star. They're very happy to have you there. You're fresh, different. You have a different perspective. And I think people love to have you hear you talk. And you know football. That's the nice part about it, too. So you texted me last night, right before you to go on. I didn't know what to tell you. Talk about what you talk about, your family and your football. You know it. You got it. So how did it go?
It went really, really well. So Eric and I did it together, and I think it's interesting because we come at things, very differently. And we have kind of different stories to share. And I am always kind of struck by Eric's an incredibly good public speaker. So I'm always a little bit like taken aback by that. But I'm always struck when he talks about Urban Meyer and the influence that he had over, not just winning championships, but I see that the pieces of advice that he talks about that turn him into championship teams, I see where they're woven through our families, like day-to-day routines and things like that. And it, it makes me really nostalgic, but it's interesting because college coaches don't just shape how their players play on the field. They shape their lives. And Eric is the way he is because he was coached by Urban Meyer.
We have, we have a lot of new people joining the program now, and we've had, as you have, I'm sure, and I want to make sure they know who you're talking about. Her husband was Peek Wilbur, the fine punter for the Gators, and of course during Urban Meyer's regime when they won a lot of ball games. Then her family is full of Gators. Yes. She's like a quadruple, triple, legacies, whatever. Everybody in the Peek family played football at Florida sometime or the other.
Yes.
So you have it, and you have a lot to talk about. I love your stories. I love the stories you tell about being a young girl, and instead of putting a rock star on the wall of your bedroom or whatever, you put articles.
Yeah, and a lot of those articles are written by a lot of the people I get to talk to now, which is like the coolest thing ever. Pat Dooley introduced us last night, and there was part of me that was like, 12-year-old me is so pumped about this. This is so cool, and I feel like that when I talk to you. And there's a lot of continuity in the Florida media. So the same people that I grew up wanting to emulate and learning about football from, I get to talk to now, and like that's the coolest job in the world.
Yep. One of the parts about the media that keeps coming up, I know this sounds like this is very self-serving, and maybe it is. I came up again tonight at the Ocala Quarterback Club, is that Billy hasn't gone out of his way to get to know a lot of the media people. Now, some of the former players like Chris Doering, of course, he does. But people have said, and I even wrote my column for tonight, I wish I could say that all the good things about Billy because I really like him.
Yeah.
He's a good coach. He's just not getting it done right now. But
Yeah.
I have never had a conversation with Billy. I think I've talked to him 3 times in my life over short things in private, nothing of any consequence. And I've never exchanged an email or had a phone call with Billy. He will come and go, and I will not know him, which is, I don't know, just the way it is. So, hey, I'm not that important. I'm not saying that's the case, but you have to have money in the bank to the media when it comes times like this. The coaches know that.
Yes, we've talked about that, for 2 years at this point, that, you earn that currency by creating these relationships with the media so that when the times get tough, they want to root for you. They want you to pull through. They want to write things that celebrate your small victories. They think twice before putting out something that could be detrimental to you. I mean, there's so many reasons to be friendly to the people that are going to go kind of a long way in determining what the public's view is of you. And I don't know, I think Napier is kind of shy by nature. I think he's more reserved than some of the names we've had here. I don't know how much the UAA or, the sports information people and things like that have kind of kept a little bit of a lid on it. We're in such a different media age than we used to be. It's 24/7 news cycle. Everybody with an iPhone, hey, I'm coming from my not basement here in rural Central Florida. I get it. But I think it's a different world, but I wish that we had gotten more of his personality because I think that could help him now.
Yeah, and I don't want people to misunderstand this, okay? It's not my ego. It's not that I don't care about that part of it. It's not anything except to do my job better, which is what I want to do.
Yeah.
People say, oh, you're just mad because you don't. No, I'm not mad about that. It's his prerogative.
Yeah.
I think and I say, well, I enjoyed that relationship with the 2 national championship coaches. I know I probably got spoiled, but be okay to actually get a question in a press conference?
Yeah.
Would it be all right to someone to acknowledge that you even exist?
Yeah.
It's not a personal thing. It's all about professional. Being treated like a professional is what it's all about, in my opinion. And Billy hasn't done a real good job on that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I know you had a lot of questions on your show, a lot of things said. What is the one? Let me get your take on everything. Let me get your take on what was the biggest epic fail, and what disappointed you the most.
So I think the overall effort and energy level were the most disappointing to me. I don't think that there was fire on that sideline. I thought that we were going to go in and experience, maybe what we experienced with Tennessee last year or Utah the year before, or, that stadium, when it's at its best, it is the best stadium in the entire country. It is loud. It is rambunctious. It is a 12th man for this team. And the stadium never really got to that point, I think, because the team never gave them the opportunity for it to get to that point. And, you don't necessarily have to be a Will Muschamp that is going to run through the brick wall when he comes out of the tunnel. But I need something. I think about that LSU game. I want to say maybe it was 2018. Mullen was the coach, and he came out and he was just kind of like jumping on the sidelines, getting the fans up and stuff. He's not necessarily the person that's going to headbutt his own player, but he had some juice, and that translated into the stands. And maybe that's the kind of thing I want to see. Like, you don't have to be somebody that you're not, but I need to see that you care. I need to see the energy and the fire, and your players take on the personality of their head coach. And I think we saw that. And so, you had 7 months to get ready for this. You talked all the time about our backs against the world. We're going to prove ourselves right. We're not worried about proving the doubters wrong. We're going to prove ourselves right. This is the best team that we've fielded since this coaching staff has been here. I mean, we heard all of the things this whole summer. I bought it. And then I sold it to you guys because I truly believed the things that we were hearing out of practice and out of the locker room and such. And it's so disappointing to not see that. So it's not that we lost, right? I think Miami's a team that more than likely will end up in the playoffs. It's that it was like we weren't even there.
Somebody said that one of the kickoff publications who ranks the 12 best teams in the playoff, they had Miami third. And
to be completely honest with you, I don't even know that we know exactly how good Miami is because that's how bad we were. I think that Miami is probably a playoff caliber team. I think you factor that in with the fact that the rest of their schedule, I mean, it only gets easier from here for them. But I honestly can't give a fair evaluation of Miami right now because I'm so caught off guard by Florida's level of play or lack thereof.
Yeah. What did you say in your podcast today? Van Der says, should get a chance to listen to Mrs. Peek's podcast today. It is worth it. What did you say?
Well, so Miami's defensive coordinator has a quote out from his press conference yesterday where he essentially said, we watched film of last season and we pulled out the top 5 to 7 plays that they used most often last season. And dadgummit, if those 5 to 7 plays didn't show up just as much this year. Mm-hmm. And, I think that that's a microcosm of the Billy Napier offense, right? It's pedestrian. It's not creative. And, Billy keeps saying in his press conferences, we just got to execute. We're doing all the things right in practice. We just got to get to the field and execute. And all I can hear when he says this, and I want to preface this by, I could be wrong. This is the way that I am interpreting what he's saying, not necessarily what he is meaning. But when I hear him say execution, what I hear is it's on the players. And it feels like there's not enough accountability for the coach in that. And even if it is execution, you've drawn it up perfectly and your players can't execute it. At some point, you have to pivot then. If your players can never execute your game plan, then maybe your game plan's not suited for your players. Can't change players. So pivot on the game plan. And I, listening to Billy's press conferences this week have made me feel like he doesn't get that. He doesn't send the message that he feels like the fault is his. And maybe it's not, but as the head coach, you probably should say it is. And, I think about Spurrier, the amount of times he stood at that podium and said, this is on me. And I can promise you it was probably almost never actually on him, but he stood in the paint and he owned that each and every time something didn't go as planned. And that is your job.
Yeah. Al Rewinkle says, buddy, I've always thought highly of you, but please disassociate yourself from Feinbaum. He's consistently taking shots at the Gators. I've known Paul 40 years. I can't disassociate myself. I don't think he says the gospel. I've criticized Paul before and will do so in the future. But I'm not going to if he says something like he said today, which, by the way, was right on the money, exactly, and I even put it in my column about what he thought about Billy's comments about basements, then I'm going to honor that. I think, when a guy writes something worthwhile, you use it. So anyway, I'm not interested in disassociating myself. I'm sorry you don't like him. That's up to you. That's fine. That time somebody will you do Friday with Urban again this year? No, we're not going to do it every Friday. We're going to have him on quite a bit though. So it's a little bit much to ask you to do it every week. So yeah, all right. So Allie, tell me where we go from here.
We go to Sanford, right? And the saying that like nothing is ever as good as it seems, nothing is ever as bad as it seems. I hope that's the case here. I think what we are upset about is not that Florida lost to Miami. I think it's the way that Florida lost to Miami. And I think it's the fact that Miami and Florida were in similar places. We hired Billy Napier 8 days prior to Miami hiring Mario Cristobal. Mm-hmm. We recruit the same places. We both have very large football budgets. We have like 10 times nicer facilities and we have a stadium. And the fact that we both started here and on Saturday it looked like Miami was here and we were stationary is why fans are freaking out. It's one game. But when you look at that schedule, it becomes a lot harder to find wins because while we may be the toughest team on Miami's schedule, and obviously that remains to be seen, but that's what it looked like before the game kicked off, they were absolutely not the toughest team on our schedule. And so if we can't even hang in the same stratosphere as Miami, what are we going to do when it comes to Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss? I mean, the Florida State game's looking better and better, but these games that we were like, okay, well, these are winnable, don't look so winnable anymore.
Yeah, it's Doering tonight. I got a soundbite here. I'll play it in a minute, where he says, I don't want to say too many critical things here on to be posted, but he said we thought we had an opportunity for 7-8 game win season, and that's pretty much shipped as sailed.
Yeah,
not going to happen now. Is it the end of the world? No, but you have no reason to see, based on what we thought there would be changes, the changes they promised us that we didn't see. Why would we expect anything different this week against Samford?
Well, I think obviously Samford is not the same type of opponent as Miami, but we also know Samford has given us trouble in the past. They hung 52 points on us in just, 2021 or 2021, excuse me. But I think this is an opportunity for us to clean things up. This is a week where we can hopefully run things the way we think they need to be run, maybe execute them, see what we have and where we are. But yeah, it was disappointing. And part of the reason we're disappointed is because of the things that they have told us have changed.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I agree with that. Let me just stop to tell you that we're folks that this program is brought to you by Meldon Law. Meldon Law, you can check them out. They have 4 offices to serve you now. Williston, Gainesville, Ocala City, and they are the only official injury law firm at the University of Florida. If you know Meldon, you know Jeffrey, what he does, always great commercials, and his money he spends on giveaways for Gator fans, you'll know all about it. So if you have a legal need, I just had one, and I got him, and hopefully it's going to be a beautiful thing. Jeffrey Meldon Law, they don't back down. I think by Jove, we've got David Moulton in here. I believe I see a David sighting.
All right.
Rainbow board?
Yeah.
Yeah. David, good evening.
How is everybody?
Hey, David, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I was just curious how the morale was going to be on the show tonight.
It's okay. It's not, it's not what we expected or anybody else said. I've heard quite a few critical comments off the record today from pretty high up Gators. Nobody in control, but people that the names instantly. And I think everybody's pretty disappointed that they didn't deliver the goods. What do you think, David?
Well, I mean, in fairness, I didn't see it live. I taped it because I was working. Mm-hmm. However, man, it was bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you were looking for one sliver of positive, the special teams looked organized. Literally, it's about the only thing that I can come up with.
Not just organized, good. Special teams
yes,
good. Special teams gets an A.
Yeah,
great.
Yes.
Saturday, all facets of special teams did their job.
But I mean, they got destroyed. Miami manhandled them. The way those two teams played, it was so bad. You thought if they played 9 more times that Miami would win 9 more times. I mean that Florida had nothing for them. And what, to me, there's 2 things. 3 that's very troubling. One is they're just not that good at the point of the attack on either side of the ball. They're not. I'm sorry. Whatever spin, whatever hype crap that they were, all spring and summer at the line of scrimmage, they're not that good. And that's not something in theory that you can correct during a season. I mean, if you're not good, it's tough to get good in 11 weeks. It just is. I mean, they don't look as physical. Now, Miami, I will say, if you believe, but then again, Florida State's defensive line was supposedly the best in the country. But if you believe preseason prognostications, Miami at the line of scrimmage had 2 top 10 units in the country. Well, let me tell you, they lived up to their billing, and Florida had 2 units that were top 30 and top 40, and they looked like they'd have trouble winning the Sun Belt at the line of scrimmage, quite frankly. So that to me is a huge concern because you're in the SEC. If you can't compete at the line of scrimmage, you're going to lose most every game you play. Period. End of sentence. You can only trick them so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number two, Billy's got to give up play calling. It ain't working. Period. End of sentence. It ain't working. They can't make any damn plays downfield. Okay, Miami's secondary is vulnerable. Florida's got some weapons, and outside of one run, they didn't do squat really until fourth quarter, game over. I don't count it. It's great for Lagway. He got snaps, the whole deal. It'll be awesome. He gets to play this week against inferior competition. That's great. But Billy's got to give a play calling. I'm sorry. It's not working. It's not. He's got to give it up.
Yeah, there's a school of thought from a lot of people who know the game at a high level that their routes were pretty ragged and that the wrong players running it wrong. And these are guys that played the game and know the game.
Yes, I know Shane feels that way. I listened to his
Shane was one of them. Yeah. Against it. Had the wrong guy running the go route. And I'm surprised really that Billy Gonzalez's wide receivers would do that, That was one thing. And I think the other thing we're saying, you're right, David, there were some buzzkills when they got a first down or they got 8 yards on a first down, come back with some running play, they lose 3 yards.
That's not new, though.
No,
it's
but not.
I thought it was going to be different.
The third thing, which unfortunately this now becomes probably the overriding story. He just doesn't look up to the job. He doesn't. Okay. But not only how the team looks on the field, but when he's in front of the microphones and the cameras, he just doesn't look like
he doesn't have a commanding presence. David, what do you mean exactly?
He looks minor league. He looks as if the job is too big for him. Okay. He does. Okay. And, the whole bloggers in your Central Florida basement. I mean, first off, how the hell do you not know that there are no basements in Florida? Right. Secondly, you just got your ass kicked. Shut up. Seriously. You got it right after the game when you said this was embarrassing. Okay. Yeah. People are going to be saying some things. Billy, you're 11-15. You just got humiliated at home. You've lost as many games in the swamp in 2 years and a day as the HBC did in 12 years.
Right.
Okay? Give me a break. Take your beating like a man. I'm sorry. All right? Don't start blaming bloggers in a Central Florida basement. It's not their fault, Billy. This is on you. Suck it up and take it.
Rural Florida. Rural Florida.
UCF's collective is selling shirts that say rural Central Florida on it. So he's actually making money for somebody else's NIL.
I may have to buy. Come on now. We may all have to buy one of those.
We need to get one.
We may.
I was calling for a nice saying, by the way, this program was built on the backs of some of these people who were rural Florida. Ben Hill Griffin, hello. I mean, rural Florida has had a big part of this. And again, doesn't know his program. And by the way, again, this is an aside. Make an effort to know about the people who know about the program.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to want to do. I don't know. It's crazy.
I didn't take massive offense to the statement. And I think, everybody was watching that press conference looking for something to be annoyed about, and they found it. He gave it to him. I think more than likely that was a line he used with the team when he was trying to get them not to look on Central Florida. Guys, don't care what somebody in rural Central Florida in their basement says about you. Yeah. And it's not one of those things that you're supposed to say to the media. But he's paid the big bucks to not make those statements. But I think had he said it when we were winning, none of us would care. We're looking for things to be annoyed at.
Well, don't coach the media. Don't try to coach them like that. Here's a guy who was there, saw it all, and listened to it. And I know he's heard about the basement he wants to hear. That'll be Scott Carter. Good evening, Scott.
What's up, buddy? How you guys doing? You guys don't have a lot to talk about this week. It's been quiet, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Baseball, mostly baseball.
Yeah, mostly baseball. No, I was at the press conference. I just heard the In the Valley's comments there. I mean, I was in the back. I was kind of on Twitter, and I heard when he said it, but it was such a long statement before he got there. It kind of just blew by me because I've heard other people say that so much over the years. But like she said, when you're not winning and you're losing ugly, he could probably have a cure for cancer this week, and they would still, not like him. So that's the way life is.
You're not in a position to be able to say too much about it because you work for the University of Florida, although you're an honest man and a good journalist. But what about this whole thing has surprised you the most in terms of the media or in terms of how Billy's reacted to it? And how do you think this thing, point out, Billy apologized today for making that comment. He's taking a big hit. I don't know. It's not a good thing, Scott.
No, it's not. But, when you look at coaches, when it goes bad, it's never good, right? When it ends. I've been here, since Urban's last few months. Then I was, every year, every time something ends with the coach, there's always that moment when you're like, ooh, wow, this feels like it. I'm not quite there with Billy yet, only because all the other years that Muschamp's last year, McElwain's last year, Mullen's last year, at least, they won a few games early. I think, I can't remember Mullen. He was 6-7 his last year, but it was never right off the bat. What makes this one unique? It's the first game of the season. And here we are. And so usually it'll take 3, 4, 5 games maybe to play out before people are ready to change. Can the Gators bounce back from this? I have no idea. I was kind of lukewarm. I was on your show enough, Billy. I'm sorry, buddy. I was never one to think this team was going to be more than 5 or 6 wins in a good year. I just saw. They were going in the right direction. They have a better roster. They have some better players than they have, but it's not what you have to have at the University of Florida in 2024 in the SEC. I'm sorry, it's not. And we all have seen what it looks like when Florida is really good. Now, Billy's made a lot of progress there, and so I'm not ready to toss him into the trash bin, but they do still need some better players, and they're going to have a really tough hill to come back from this year. It's just reality.
I don't know, Allie and you and David, what the most disappointing thing to you was about this, other than it was advertised as one thing, and it's really not what it was advertised as. But I think to me, the most disappointing thing was that Miami pushed them all over the field. Mm-hmm. All the comments about, they've gained this much in muscle, lost this much in fat, and we told them we're stronger and whatever. I don't know if it was technique or strength or maybe both. Miami pushed them all over the field, and it was really disturbing. They couldn't bring the running backs down, and it wasn't tackling technique, David. The technique, they just couldn't. The strength was huge. All I could think about, who was the running back from Miami that used to pull cars? Remember that? That was the way you worked out. Played the NFL for a long time. They got some training there because these guys are strong. And, Florida just sort of bounced. I don't know. What of all that, Allie, was the most disappointing thing to you?
I think I am disappointed that I feel like our coaching staff isn't good at evaluating where they're at. Eric and I both listened to Billy's press conference from Monday on our way to Gainesville yesterday, and we took different things from it. I really harped on the fact that he kept harping on execution, which to me says it's the player's fault. And what Eric said was, when they asked Billy some kind of question essentially about, was he surprised at what he saw on the field? And he said, yeah, that he was surprised that they looked like that. And Eric was like, I do not understand how you are surprised what the product you put on the field looks like. And, we've talked about essentially, are we a JV team that practices against a JV team? And so we're like, man, they've got pretty similar talent. They must both be really working hard and be really good. And then you leave that JV and you go play a varsity game and you get walloped. But you didn't realize that you were that bad because you were playing against each other and everybody looked pretty good. And like, that kind of feels like what it is. But damn, it's your job to know where you're at. And it felt like they didn't know that they were surprised. It's okay for us to be surprised, but it's not great that they were surprised.
I think she's right, David. The misevaluation.
Listen, they were not competitive. Okay, them losing to Miami, I would have been fine if they lost to Miami. Miami's obviously a legit top 20 team, maybe even a legit better than that. Okay, we may look back and go, wow, they were preseason 19. They should have at least taken the one off that. Okay, this Miami, who knows? This team, I talked to somebody today who said, I don't know if there are 5 teams in the country more talented than that Canes team. But the expectation was that Florida would at least be on the field with them. They would be competitive with them. They were not. And we all knew it early. When I was watching that game, I went, 10 minutes into the game, I went, oh, they got, yeah, now I know why this ended the way it ended. I'm sorry. Did anybody think at any point during that 3.5 hours that Florida was competitive?
No.
I think one flickering moment was after Montrell Johnson's long run. Was it 19 something at the time? Okay, maybe this is the start of something, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, that just for a bit, you're hoping that would have turned things around. That was a big play. But you're right. They were not competitive, and they weren't what they advertised to be. So, Scott, what is it about what's fixable? Because some people say we're fixable. You can't take a team that's supposed to be bigger, faster, stronger, and it wasn't, and fix that in a week. That's program failure right there. And yeah, you can fix the play calling. Yeah, there's another quarterback I really like to see, DJ Langley, play. But, there was some awful offensive line play. There was some bad defensive play. I don't know how much you can fix, Scott.
Yeah, it's always tough. I think early in the season, as a coaching staff, if you're good, you can find some of those answers. Obviously, for me, guys, it just starts with the obvious, the effort, the energy. When I saw, I don't know if it was one of your all's podcasts or a couple players were on there talking. I think it was, I can't remember who they were. I've watched so much this week, but they were basically at the game on Saturday, and they were saying how, they would have been fighting among themselves in the locker room at the halftime of that game because of the lack of energy. And it kind of just opened my eyes. Like, you did see that on the field from the start. It just didn't seem like, how can you not get excited about Miami, Florida? But then again, when I step back from that, I think about where college football is right now and transfer portal and so many new guys on teams every year. They don't know anything about Miami and Florida. So, but still, you have to coach that. You have to teach them, and they still have to take it on themselves. You only get 5-6 chances a year of playing the swamp. You got to be pumped up.
It might have been Steve Harris. I think he had Brian Crum on High Top. They were talking about it. And Eric, there was more guys from the 06 National Championship team back this past weekend than I can remember since we left. And even Chris Leak was back, and I feel like we haven't seen him since we graduated, And I think that was the common theme that they all kept saying to each other is we would have been beating each other up on the sidelines. But I don't think it has anything to do about who the the opposition is. I think it has to do with the fact that it was so ingrained in them to hold each other accountable for your mistakes, and it made them so angry if somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do all out, that they would literally fight each other over it. And I do think we're in such a different place in society. The transfer portal has made college football different. I'm sure these players today are going to be very upset that I say this, but like, college football is soft compared to what it was the last time Florida was good, right? And you have to handle these players with kid gloves because they're out. There's not a whole lot of, we talked about the UCF quarterback, the USC quarterback on Sunday night, because this is a guy that actually stuck through and sat the bench. And now he's a senior and he gets to start. And that's so rare that it, becomes a whole storyline in that game because it's not what we see. So I'm sure that that's part of it. But I guarantee you Georgia players are fighting each other in the locker room if they play like that.
Well, that's just it, Allie. Listen, there's no doubt you have to handle players differently now. Norvell's going through that at Florida State, where you've paid the guys who've come in the transfer portal, and they don't have the same buy-in as the last two classes had. And now what do? You've already paid them, okay? Yep. And they're leaving in a year, and if they don't have the buy-in, they're still going to get drafted pretty highly. Because the pro scouts still believe in their talent, and Florida State may go 5-7 this year.
And they made a bunch of money doing it. And I think that also makes this different.
But I just wonder, though, and there's no doubt that there are aspects to college football that are softer now. But I wonder if, quite frankly, we just need to fess up with the fact that the Gators are soft. Mm-hmm. They are.
I think so. Yeah.
The Gators are not a hard team to play against anymore. They're not. Even under Muschamp, they were a hard team to play against. They were offensively challenged, okay, but they were a hard team to play against. Even with McElwain, they were a hard team to play against, all right? Even with Dan, until the very end, they were a hard team to play against. Billy Napier's Gators are not a hard team to play against, and that needs to change. You can lose games and still be a tough out. The Gators are losing, and they're not a tough out.
Yeah, so as we look down the road, I think everybody says the same thing. Chris Doering, I'm going to play this bite real fast. Chris Doering said he's not ready to pull the plug yet on Billy. I think there are some who are, but he says he's not. And how much longer? Let's hear what Chris had to say.
And go ahead.
Tonight's guest is the Ocala QB Club, kicking it off with the man, Chris Doering, tonight. Speaking to us. Can't wait to hear what you have to say. There's a lot of stuff going around, Chris.
Yeah, interesting timing to have to be here tonight, and sure addressing some of the questions about the team and where we go from here. So a little anxiousness amongst the fan base.
I would say, I just talked to your old coach. Could not get him off the phone for 20 minutes. He had things to say.
I'm sure.
And a lot of conversation going on among the Blue Bloods of Florida football. I know we all kind of want to be careful about this and not go too far, but exactly where do you stand on this question of what happened with Billy Napier's comments about the guy in the basement?
That's probably an off-the-cuff thing, something that he, in hindsight, regrets saying. Obviously, first and foremost, we don't have basements in Florida, so probably an odd thing to say. But, he's frustrated. I think that, his team's frustrated and maybe not the best choice of words, but I'm not trying to necessarily convict him over that. I'm more worried about the stuff happening on the field.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people saying we love Billy, except what happens on Saturday. Like him as a person, think he's a good coach. So far, hasn't been able to do it. You have to carry the banner of the Gators. I know you have your own job at ESPN. You have to walk a fine line. Mm-hmm. Can I ask you your personal opinion on the future of Billy Napier as a coach?
Yeah, I like Billy a lot too. I was out there practice a couple times this preseason, makes himself available to me. He talks to me for a long time, really cares about the former players. But at the end of the day, it's all just fluff unless you're able to win ball games. And so this was a season that I had high hopes they were going to take a significant step forward with the players that they brought in. To me, the thing that was the indictment more than anything is just the lack of preparedness. Didn't look like they were prepared. Didn't look like they were in sync. We're talking about the first game of the season, so it's not like you're surprised. Who you're playing against. This is a team you've been working towards for months and months and months, and to have that look as disorganized as they did in a lot of ways, and maybe more so just listless against an opponent like that, to come in your backyard and get manhandled like that was embarrassing.
The Billy used the word embarrassment. I was going to say that's what it was. And finally, I guess what we have to find out now is whether he's capable of turning this thing around. It's a big job once things start going the wrong way. I'll ask you straight up, can Billy Napier turn this around?
I mean, the only way to turn it around is by winning football games. And the thing that I worry about is I thought the lines of scrimmage would be better this year. They're not. I thought that the organization and the overall aesthetics would look better. They're not. You're about to play a team. Miami, I think, is a playoff team. Miami is built like an SEC team, and we know what the run of SEC games coming up look like. Texas A&M was just in a fist fight with Notre Dame last weekend, and so that's going to be a physical challenge. Short of finding a way, the only way to cure what ails Florida is winning games. I don't. What I thought was a 7 or 8 win season now to me looks like a 2 or 3 weeks win season.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so guys, hold your thoughts. I'll get each one of you to respond to what Chris said. First, I want to tell you this program brought to you by, of course, Belmont Law, but TitanMRI.com. They have 2 locations to serve you in North Central Florida. If you need an MRI, this is a great place for you to go. They'll custom make an appointment for you, nights, weekends, to fit your schedule. If you don't have insurance, you can use cash or card, and they're going to make it as comfortable as you can make it when you have to get inside of an MRI and you get claustrophobic. They have open cages. So I encourage you, if you're interested, go check them out, TitanMRI.com. All right, who wants to go first responding to Chris?
Well, it's simple math, all right? Got to beat Samford, A&M, Mississippi State, UCF. Got to rattle off 4 in a row. You can go and lose at Rocky Top. Tennessee, I think, is a legit top 15 team. Their young quarterback, by the way, I think is going to be special. And need to come home, homecoming, and beat Kentucky. They need to be 5-2 heading into their second bye week, facing the gauntlet. I mean, we all said that all offseason. Doesn't matter how you get to 5-2 or 6-1, okay? And, if they are 6-1 or 5-2 heading into the gauntlet, then we will have largely forgotten about this. But he's got to win games, period, end of sentence. Got to win games because he ain't going to win pressers. We've already seen that. He just doesn't have it in him. He's got to win games.
I mean, if he wins games, he doesn't have to win pressers. That's,
right.
The silver lining of winning there. We don't really care what he says if he's winning. That he can say whatever he wants. But, I don't think we should ever get too high or too low. I get why fans are upset. And I know it has to do with how we lost, not that we lost. And it does get harder to find wins. I think, David, you're exactly right. You got to beat Samford, and you got to beat him resoundingly. This can't be a close, we squeaked it out at the end kind of win. You need to resoundingly beat Samford, which should be no issue for you. And then Texas A&M comes to town, and they looked good. They looked good under a brand new head coach where they lost like 40 guys last year to the transfer portal, an incredibly large number of guys. So the fact that they looked as good as they did against Notre Dame is kind of intimidating. But if Florida can beat them at home 2 in a row, winning begets a little bit of winning. You can go to Mississippi State. You should have no problem taking care of business there. Our talent profiles are not the same at all. And it's a new head coach. Then you come home and you beat UCF. And you know what? We're looking at this outlook a little bit better at that point. You can sneak a couple wins at the end, and it's going to be enough, I think, to carry him into 2025. But at this moment, that just feels like a big ask.
All right, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, they both hit it on the head. Talk is pretty cheap right now if you're a Billy Napier. You just go out and win games. That's all you can do. There's no secret formula. And if you lose a couple of these early, we're going to be having the same conversation or maybe a different one than we are now. So you'd like to see them turn around, but I also want to see the players. All these players talk about how much they love Billy Napier. Well, if they really love him, they're going to go out and play really hard for him the next few weeks because I think, or they don't understand where the program is. So I'm interested to see it as much as you guys, just what it looks like and how this all turns out. But certainly not what I was expecting this hot after one game.
I guess so. Go ahead.
Either.
You go ahead.
I just didn't see it coming like this. I think if we had gone blow for blow right down to the wire and we lose to a Miami team who honestly looks like the real deal right now, we're not feeling this way. We're like, okay, we still got all these opportunities down the road, but we got manhandled, and we got manhandled by a team that talent profile wise is very similar to us. There's not a single position group that I can look at with my eyes and say we're similar to, but on paper we are. And, even if Miami is the most talented team in the country, they had the same number of years under their belt with Mario that we have with Napier. So how was he able to build the most talented team in the country? And we are where we are. All of those things are what contribute to this, underlying frustration with the fan base. But winning cures everything, right?
It is a conundrum, and I'll ask you all this question. I was sitting and having my mani-pedi, by the way, the other day. And a woman came in and sat down next to me. I love those, by the way. And she said, "Seen any bad football lately?" And she knew who I was. I said, "Yeah, I saw two pretty bad games by the Gators and Seminoles." We started talking about how bad things were. I got thinking, who's worse off here? Is it worse to have a number 10 ranked team and lose 2 games that you were supposed to lose and look bad? Is it worse to have a team that you thought would be mediocre and then look worse than that? Who's going to be ahead of the curve?
Well, we're 1 year closer to getting a new coach than they are, so I would say we're ahead of the curve.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, probably 2 years. I mean, because Norvell just got a new contract, and the buyout would be, staggering. So yeah, it's much worse for Florida. I mean, Norvell, until this little episode here, had won 19 in a row over 2 seasons. I mean, Billy, we don't know if Billy Napier in 3 years is going to get to 19 wins. In fact, I think we'd all bet the ranch right now he won't.
Yeah.
Ellie?
I mean, yeah, I actually think that Florida State is probably slightly more miserable than us. We've been here. We know what this feels like. We're kind of in comfortable territory at this moment. But for Florida State, I think, the banter has always been, is Norvell a really good coach, or did he catch lightning in a bottle with Jordan Travis? And, I think that what we're seeing a little bit is you cannot build a program through the transfer portal. You can build a great team, but that doesn't mean you're going to have the same success year in and year out. And I think that's what Florida State fans are like, well, shoot, we thought we had a program headed in the right direction, and it may have just been that they had a pretty good team.
Yeah, he crushed 2 years in the transfer portal, and obviously this year he's missed. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that Napier and the Gators have been doing in the last year better than Norvell, they've been doing better with the high school kids. Mike right now doesn't have a group of young kids that he's recruited for the last 3 years that he can replace his transfer portal guys with, who he just missed on. Okay, but obviously Gator fans are like, listen, we'll take 2 years of crushing the portal and deal with a bad year 3. Thank you very much. Knowles just won 23 games in the last 2 years. I mean, I think Florida would love to have their issues.
All right, guys, final question. What other teams have been the biggest surprise to you, either how good or how bad they are? Who would stand out?
I mean, I already said it, but Texas A&M stood out to me. And I think part of that is personal because they've got a coach that everybody here thought they wanted to get rid of. And half their defense is players that left us too. And we told ourselves, well, we upgraded at all of those positions with the guys we came in to replace them. But they had success against Notre Dame. They played really, really well against Notre Dame. They looked good. And these are people that have jumped ship from Gainesville. And, that doesn't feel good to watch. But I was surprised with an entirely new roster rebuilt, brand new team that Texas A&M held their own against Notre Dame.
Scott?
For me, I mean, obviously, I saw Miami up close, and I've seen Miami on TV so many times kind of lose those big games in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
And to come up here and what they do, and this Florida team, as we've talked, I mean, it's not very impressive right now where the program is, but I do think Miami. I'll be surprised if they're not a really good team by the end of the year if Cam Ward stays healthy. And man, he was impressive to me. So I really like Miami, and of course, who's the worst? I mean, you can take your pick: Florida State or Clemson, probably. Both of them. I mean, Dabo's facing the heat, Norvell's facing the heat, and somebody else will be facing the heat this weekend. So it's a week-to-week business, and everybody thinks you're going to win every game, and it's just not reality. But those are some that stuck out to me over week one.
I know nobody cares, but Virginia Tech losing to Vandy is disgraceful. How about USC? Well, let's give USC some credit. They still a work in progress on defense, but they made plays when they had to against a very talented team. And that was a really good win, not just for them, but for the Big Ten also. And, SEC, I mean, they're going to count that Vandy win so that they can say they were 2-3 non-conference this past week. But, Texas needs to go to Michigan and win. Alabama needs to go to Wisconsin and win if it's going to come down to between the Big Ten and the SEC, which conference is going to get that extra at large. SEC needs to get a couple W's here. Texas, as a 7+ point favorite, cannot go to Ann Arbor and lose against a Michigan team that was 16-10 mid-fourth quarter with Fresno State, even though Fresno State's pretty good, but still.
Yeah. All right, so thinking back now, for those of us who follow Florida football fairly close, which would be all of us, I have a little bit of nightmarish thoughts about the M's when they were here. And, we keep thinking, when are they going to get it right? We thought we had it right with McElwain, Muschamp, Mullen. And now here we are back to square one, where the coach is sitting on the precipice of being fired. And what now, Allie? What now?
Well, we got to take it one game at a time at this moment, right? That's all we can do.
Well, the only thing I'll say is that if the time comes that you're making a change, can you spend the money and hire somebody who's a proven winner? All right. I mean, if you think about it, in the last 40 years,
not an on-the-job training,
right? Okay, it was a step up for McElwain. It was a step up for Napier. Okay, Muschamp had never done it before. Now, we thought Dan, and for 3 of the 4 years, Dan got it done. Okay, left the program in disrepair.
Is the person who had the most experience coaching at this level.
Right, and he walked in and he acted like, this job's not too big for me. I can handle this. And he took them to 3 New Year's Six bowls in a row and took a team that was the undefeated national champion and lost by a score. And one of the scores that Alabama had was an absolute fluke play where they threw an interception and the Gators fumbled the ball and Bama got it back. And who knows, if that doesn't happen, maybe Florida pulls the upset that night in Atlanta. But that's why, to me, if the time comes that they're moving on from Sunbelt Billy, fine. Hire a proven guy who there's no question is up to the job, is good enough to do it because he's already done it somewhere else. We didn't have any questions about Urban. All right. And thankfully, they gave the HBC the chance 35 years ago, and he had already proven he was a winner as a player and as a coach. All right. And that's why, to me, it's real simple. It's 8 years, $100 million for Lane Kiffin. Do the deal now, put it in a drawer. Honestly, do exactly what A&M did with Jimbo. That deal, now that we look back, that deal apparently was done in early October and put in a drawer for 2 months because there was a Houston TV sportscaster who reported it the second week of October. And sure enough, he proved out to be right. I'm serious. I'd call, the agent 8 for 100 right now, put it in the drawer, and just let the year play out.
That's tough medicine there. I hear what you're saying. I've talked to a lot of people who said very similar thing. Don't waste your time. Go get Kiffin. Of course, we don't know that Kiffin's the answer either, but he's the most likely. He has the track record. And if you start looking around and start making lists, which is a little too early to do, I mean, how long of lists could you have? There aren't that many great-looking coaches out there.
Right.
I can throw in Lance Leopold and different people like that, but you're risky.
Buddy, you were there. What was the plan B if not Urban? If Florida had lost Urban to Notre Dame, what was plan B? Okay, he was the guy. And Jeremy Foley, to his credit, he got it wrong with Zook, and he knew this is it. I'm only going to get
looking pretty good right now, though.
What?
Zook's looking pretty good right now. Beats
yeah.
State, beats LSU, beats Tennessee.
And not only that, the team was loaded with talent. Okay, Gators didn't get pushed around under Zook. They screwed some things up.
Punter back in the day.
Right.
I was sitting with a friend of mine today who got a call from Zook. And he said, if I'd have played like that, they'd have burned my house down.
100%. Yeah, there's probably a lot of coaches that are like, man, why was my leash not this long? This is it's a different era. But it's going to be interesting to watch. And obviously we could talk about names, and hopefully it doesn't get to that point. I'm hoping we rattle off some wins, and this is all just for naught. But with the playoffs, it used to be that there were 4 coaches that were kind of off limits until after the first week of January. The national championship game is January 20th this year. With the way that signing day works and now the early signing day and stuff, if the top 12 coaches in college football are off the table till potentially mid to late January, how does that change your approach here? And then it sets you back a year and a half recruiting wise. This class is a wash if you're trying to go after somebody that is playing in a playoff game and isn't available till the week before the kids want to sign. Or 3 or 4 weeks after they wanted to sign.
Well, and it's also why, quite frankly, the coaches wanting to take that 15 days in April away from a transfer standpoint. Allie, your point. I mean, even if you want to hire somebody who loses a first round playoff game, I think the first round playoff games this year are going to be like December 19th, 20th, or 21st. Well, you only got like 2 weeks left in the transfer portal. God forbid that coach wins a first round game, is going to lose around New Year's Day. The transfer portal ends January 7th. You're going to hire them January 2nd or 3rd? Okay, they're going to have no time to grab anybody really in the portal. Meanwhile, your roster, whatever, we think of this roster, but there's a good chance that the top guys in it, they long gone.
Right. Well, because do you really hold on to your coach that long until you fire? You don't. So then this is a rudderless boat for God knows how long. And, the team that let's say it's Lane Kiffin, and let's say Ole Miss makes the playoffs. I think they have a great chance of that happening. They make it, there's 4 teams left. And then what?
That's why, to be honest with you do the deal and you put it in a drawer.
But Lane Kiffin, if he's the coach we think he is, sure shit isn't letting his team know that it's in the drawer.
No, he's not. That's Jimmy Sexton. It's sitting in Jimmy Sexton's drawer.
For sure, and it can be, but that doesn't do anything for us recruiting-wise.
I understand, but you got to hire obviously, the Gators have hired too many wrong guys here. They at least, if the time comes to make a change, they at least have to hire the right guy. Yeah. Okay, and I think we would all be shocked if Lane turned out to not get the job done. If you can get the job done in Oxford, Mississippi, you can get the job done in Gainesville, Florida.
But in Oxford, Mississippi, you're making almost $10 million a year. And as long as you win 8 games, you can stay as long as you want. And by the way, he has no problem pitching NIL, and they have no problem throwing money at him for it. Mm-hmm. So, as much as I think Lane Kiffin would be a hit here. I don't know if I think he'd get us over the hump, but I think he would inject some fire into this fan base. But that's going to be a big ask because he's got a pretty sweet gig right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's why if you offer 8 for 100, that's 12.5 per. And if you can't get him and Jimmy Sexton to say yes to that now and put it in a drawer, then he ain't coming.
Jimmy Sexton has all the Gators coaches. I think been Jimmy Sexton guys.
Yes, see,
It's
90%
Urban, right?
of college football. Like Eric was like, wait, so he's going to make money off of Billy Napier's payout and buyout, and then he's going to make money on the next coach's hire.
Maybe they need whatever. I just hope it's not. Well, Kiffin would fit in this category.
Yeah.
I just hope it's somebody who has no Saban ties. I'm tired of the Saban ties.
Well, that's going to be somewhat difficult, but
it is going to be somewhat difficult. But you know what? Yeah, what you guys, it was interesting back and forth you guys had there. I know, like you guys, I think Lane Kiffin would be an intriguing option. I think that's the one that's won among the fans. But I'm also, I kind of forgot Bill O'Brien was coaching Boston College until
he looks great.
And I looked at that and I was like, man, that guy knows what he's doing. He's a coach. So I never rule out those NFL guys. College football has been so recycled with coaches the last decade. These NFL guys are probably looking at going to college is not much different now than what they're doing because it's all about money now. So,
yeah,
they'll hire young guys to recruit. They just get me the best players.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we hire a GM first, right? And take some of that off your head coach's plate.
Well, this Gator group would not go for Bill O'Brien. He's not sexy enough. He's too old. He's a hell of a football coach. They want someone like Kiffin, who's the hot guy. Guys, this has been a sensational panel. We could go here for another couple hours. I think you both hate me. My wife would hate me too because we're getting up the crack of dawn to drive to Panama City. So we got to go here. But boy, what a good show. I can't thank you enough. Scott, thank you so much. David, good to have you back. Appreciate it. As always, Allie, you were stunning. You were absolutely wonderful tonight, and I'm sure you knocked them dead at the quarterback club in Gainesville last night. So thanks, people. I hate to go off there with almost 700 people still going here tonight with us, but hey, it is what it is. You guys are great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, be good.
All right, folks. I want to say good night to you, and thank you very much for staying with us tonight. What a night. If I didn't have to go up so early tomorrow, I'd stay here another hour if they stay with me. So many people tonight, last couple of nights have glommed on. Please tell your friends and neighbors about us. Also, tell them about Gatorbait right here. There's some good stuff being written on Gatorbait. In fact, I got a column tonight you might even like. Branch Beard writes wonderful stuff. Check us out. Go to GatorbaitMedia.com. And it's kind of a complimentary thing to this show. And we have some really wonderful articles there. We're getting better. So I would say that we'd love to have you in our family. Tell your friends and neighbors about this. Go ahead and smash the subscribe button on this show and keep us going. I don't know if Brendan's on tonight or not. Probably so. So, Brendan, if you're there, I'm going to give this our spot on RentStar, and then we'll say goodnight. Because RentStar Medical Research is such a special group of people to us, has been for a long time. In addition to me and our wonderful friends there, also it's a company that cares about you, about your town, about your health, and all the research they do is directly responsible for the fact that you can get help. Go to rentstar.net, check it out. If you join a clinical trial, it'll be very helpful to them and to you. They get the information and send it off to a company and get the data to them to get a better profile of what we need here in our community. These trials are everything from asthma to arthritis, etc. If you qualify for the trial and you go to rentstar.net, you can get compensation for time and travel. So go and find out about it and find out why they say RentStar Medical Research seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thanks so much for our guest tonight, Peek Wilbur, Scott Carter, David Moulton, and Chris Doering. Appreciate Brendan Martin producing and publishing tonight. And we're back tomorrow night. I'll be broadcasting. The old throat's about to go. Broadcasting from my studio in Panama City. Once again, we're headed back that way. And we hope you'll follow us there. We'll be on at the same time. You take care, folks. Good night.